Been walking through the Navy Exchange and wonder why all the Naval Pride and Heritage gear is horrifically ugly and you wouldn't actually wear it. Have you ever wanted some really cool gear and you just don't know where to go? Well, I got you, fam. Go to dgutspodcast.com immediately. Get yourself some Naval Pride and Heritage gear you'll actually wear in public. We're working on new designs all the time, open to ideas. We're trying to create a brand that lets you display that pride, but doesn't make you cringe. Also, if you're willing to and you're able to, please go to patreon.com/dgutspodcast, pick one of the 5 tiers and become a patron today. What's up, everybody? Let's spin some yarn. So I said this in the, it should be now published, Super Chiefs episode that I'm recording this the same day that I was going to do a spin the yarn, answering the question, how can I be so critical of the Chiefs mess, almost adversarial in a lot of interpretations, and still be so proud of being a Chief? And I mean, you can look around and understand, and there's a lot you can't see. I mean, I've got a case full of combo cover anchors that I collect, bunch of other stuff. I mean, my CPO, every Chief, for as much as I'm critical of the Chiefs creed, there's you're given one, usually some copy of it, and it's I got one, it's like a wooden helm, and in the middle it's got brass with the creed printed on it, and it's got my name and pinning date and all that stuff, and it's hanging on my wall, and that's a thing that I am very critical of. Bunch of stuff. I mean, the whole wall's covered with submarine stuff and Cook stuff and personal mementos, stuff I got when I left boats, and I've got my golden dragon and shellback thing on the wall and all that. And I was asked by Ariana, actually. We were having a conversation where she was wondering how can you be proud of this? When we were in a conversation where we were both being critical, but she was bringing up some interactions she had and historically, I think, and I just think it's a really valuable conversation because, as I mentioned on the Super Chiefs episode, it's a thing that can, if you don't address it and if you don't take the time to explore the idea and really understand it and come from it from a constructive perspective, it'll eat you alive. Right? Especially these board eligible first classes that are about to be selected here in less than a month, I think. It's something that you spend, and I was no different. You spend the entire time junior listed and as a non-chief, right? From E1 to E6 or whatever your journey is in that part of the enlisted pay grade structure. You spend a lot of your time on the other side of an adversarial relationship with the Chiefs mess. So it's a very it's not often talked about, and but it's a very important component of transitioning from outside the Chiefs mess to inside the Chiefs mess, and to understanding how to be a productive leader in that role. And so I want to talk about why I am so critical of the Chiefs mess, but I'm simultaneously so damn proud of the fact that I was part of it. I was a chief longer than I wasn't in the Navy. After I left, I believe I was a chief for about 12 years, and I did 21 years in the Navy. So, chief, senior chief, master chief, but that whole time combined. And so the short answer is I've seen what it can be. I've seen the potential of it in practical application when it's living up to its full potential, right? When it's when the organization and the people that comprise it come together for a common cause, or when a chief, whether it's me or someone else, lives up to that exemplar, to that ideal that as junior enlisted we want from our chiefs and we want from the mess. And more often than not, we don't get it for a lot of reasons, right? Not just because it's a toxic dumpster fire, right? Like that's the meme, right? But it is dysfunctional. I don't think it's a toxic dumpster fire exactly. I definitely think it can appear that way and can functionally be that based on the consequences of that dysfunction. But it also has the potential to be something really special. And sometimes it is. And that's what I want to talk about is I've gotten the opportunity to do some incredible things that I'll never forget for my entire life, that I've kept mementos from, that are very important to me. Some of that's been through the podcast. A lot of it hasn't been. And I've got my charge book in front of me to show you some of the evidence. I got receipts where not only so if I go to the journal section, right, not only did I had a rough initiation season, and I've talked about it on the podcast a bunch, where I effectively got to not only go through the season, but be a member of this mess for 3 years, because I was there for a little less than a year as a first class and then made chief. So I got to be a part of that mess after going through the initiation season. We called it induction in 2011, but I got to be a part of the season there, but I got to be in that mess for 3 years, and it was like Chief University. But also, it wasn't perfect, and particularly the season, right? There were some really great experiences. I've talked about that Cobb when he would have us do these book report things, and of course we would suck at it. And this dude would go into lecture mode where he would start talking to us about the content of these books, and he was able to convey the meaning and the historical importance of, because a lot of his the Six Frigates, I think, is the book title, and Leading the Seven Seas, which I've got on the shelf over here somewhere, and or Navigating the Seven Seas, I think, the Melvin Williams book. And he was able to talk. He was able to talk about these books like he was there. I mean, it was riveting, and a large component of that was the caliber leader this guy was, the depth and breadth of experience that he had, but also he was passionate about it. That stuff's important to him, and he conveyed that importance as well through that passionate articulation, right? And those things, I mean, not only were we on the edge of our seats, but the other chiefs in the room and senior chiefs in the room were on they all got captivated by those trainings or whatever. We were in the Chiefs mess. I don't know. I think it was training, but there was some not fun stuff too. And so in the journal entries, at the very beginning, it's very much first class mindset. One of them's fun. It was August 10th, 2011, day before my birthday. The first line of the journal entry is, "Just got fisted by the Cobb." And it's fun because he underlined it, because I thought, journal in my brain, and you're redlining the entire initiation season, right? And we called it on mission, but we were on deployment. So I'm doing that. That's enough to stress anyone out. And then on top of that, I'm trying to do the initiation season. And oh, by the way, we had 2 major ships inspections coming up. One of them was an SMI, which was my inspection. So I just not sleeping, and it was a mess. So in my mind, these journals are personal. No one's going to read them because it's a journal, right? Turns out we were at a training. It was in the wardroom. We use the wardroom on submarines for meetings because we don't have a lot of spaces for everybody to gather. We were in the wardroom. I remember it was yesterday. And they were reviewing mine, and I forget who found it, but then they handed it to my Cobb, and he read it and underlined it, and we all got a good laugh. I wasn't laughing. I was terrified, but they were laughing. And then, talking about all the menial tasks we have to accomplish. No idea how I'm supposed to keep up with this and work and SMI preps. not like the very first entry. It's holy shit, I made chief. And then I put my name was the first one over the 1MC. I'm about to shit myself. Then had a mini panic attack because I thought Alex didn't make it, which was a buddy of mine he's a torpedo man that he had been a first class for a really long time, and he was that guy that you're like, why isn't this guy a chief? Like, he's amazing, a sailor of the year and all, and he was just not a great exam taker, so he wasn't making board, blah blah blah. But he did make it, which was awesome. And then I said, thinking about it so much, it's pretty insane for it to actually be here. And then not looking forward to transition, getting fucked with by the goat locker. So it's like, that was my outlook at the time, was like, God, I don't want to deal with this crap. I thought it was stupid. I thought it was unnecessary. And a large part of that was just arrogance, thinking that I was already ready to do the job. And, that I was already a better leader. I was probably going to be a better chief than all these guys and all that kind of stuff, which, come to realize later, I'm an idiot. We got a break because the submarine broke and we pulled into San Diego. And we did the uniform fitting because we had access to a uniform shop unexpectedly. And that was really fun. Because I got to put khakis on and I got it was cool. It was stuff I had thought about for a long time. And then, for the one where the Cobb underlined that entry, the reason I made that entry was because I just got lit up. I got called into the Chiefs mess and told that I couldn't participate in the season anymore because the galley was such a mess, blah, blah, blah. I had a chief at the time that should have been running it, but while he was a good dude, terrible chief, right? So I was the one keeping all the plates spinning. And when my attention was taken away from that, and I like everybody, I just disappeared, and I'm like freaking out at like, this is the thing that's on fire. So I'm paying attention to the season. And the galley went to shit. And on it goes, right? I've got, my birthday one where I failed my mock PFA. That's the only, it wasn't a real PRT, but I was so nervous. I was freaking out and I just bombed we did it on a treadmill underway. And I was so nervous that my heart rate was like 1,000,000 before I even got on the treadmill, and I just sucked. And, yeah, it's like failed my mock PFA as the cherry on top of one of the shittiest days I've had in years. I don't even struggle with running. Ridiculous. Giant piece of humble pie with a side of I'm not perfect. Everyone is fallible. Yeah, and then it goes on, and you can see my mindset transition throughout, right? And the entries actually get longer too. I don't know, man. It was cool. Like and then like at one point I had the Nukes will appreciate this. There was a Nuke ELT that I spent time mentoring and helping through his fish and stuff. And, he had me pin his fish on, which, is kind of like submariners, like especially at the time I'm a chief select when I pinned him. They thought it was surprising, right? Because we're not exactly treated like we have a high level of knowledge, if even a high level of cognition, right? People think we're stupid just because we're cooks. It's the culture of submarines. I don't know why. I don't know why smart people act so dumb, but it happens all the time. And I thought it would be I thought it was really cool. Like I remember that moment vividly, and I remember being really proud of the fact that I kind of surprised, honestly, because like you imbibe some of that stuff and you think to yourself that like it's, even though you helped a lot, they're not going to ask you. And then he did. Yeah, got bodied by SMI September 8th, home sweet home, Taco Bell and Red Bull. That's the only thing I wrote that day. I used to be obsessed with Red Bull. But yeah, and when I get in here, what I turned this into, which it was a chief during the season explained it to me, it was like, it turned into a scrapbook, essentially. Like, it was like a time capsule and just a record of the things that I've accomplished, but also like the things I got to be a part of, right? And for me, the things that I accomplished is the same thing. It's synonymous with like the things my sailors accomplished, right? And for sure there are things in here, like I have my promotion to senior chief and master chief in here, but like in my mind, and I said it at both promotions, like, this happened because of the hard work of my people. I didn't have nearly as much to do with it as they did, right? And I really do believe that. Like, I understand that I worked really hard, but also, you know, without them, I don't even have a job, essentially. But so like I have like I kind of taped all the stuff in here, right? It's like this is the first chief season that I ran. I was really proud of this. This is one I've talked about. This was their pinning invitation, and then this was like their little sequence of events for final night that folds open. And that one was really cool. I need to get a picture of those guys in here, but that was really cool because that was what kept me in the Navy. Like, I was separating as a chief at 11 and a half years, and they let me run the chief season, and it was like crack. It was like freebasing leadership development, like, and education. It was just like, I was hooked, and I told I knew I couldn't get that experience anywhere else in the way that I did. So that's what kept me around. This is one of my first class leaders as an A school instructor. She posted this. It's like a blog post, thanking a bunch of people, for their involvement in her development and stuff. And it said, like, so I had a conversation with her while she was my A school student where she wanted to be a search and rescue swimmer on her ship. I've talked about this on the podcast before too. But it says, people told me, and this is her blog post, people told me when I got here that there was no way I would be able to be a SAR swimmer. And I told her they were going to tell her that. I told her, when you get there, they're going to tell you can't do it. They're going to tell you cooks don't do that. She's like a real short, petite girl. I was like, they're going to tell you can't do it because you're tiny, you're a girl, well, all these other reasons. And I was like, don't take no for an answer, and show them. Don't just tell them you want to do it. You better be in the gym every day. You better be hanging around them like an annoying, like, little sister that just won't go away, and show them how bad you want it and work for it. But after a month of hard work, I'm proud to say that I'll be at SAR school in 2 super short weeks. Now that I am in reach of my goal, nothing can stop me. I am determined to come out on top, as my chief from boot camp would say, motivated, dedicated, kill, kill, kill. And then it said, I won't be letting anything stand in my way. I look forward to the 4 weeks of physical training. I look forward to being one of the few, if not the only female in my class. I look forward to being the smallest in my class, because that means nothing. The only thing that stands in the way of me being able to get through this training is me, and I dare to dream. I will study harder, train harder, and push myself to new heights physically and mentally. And then I go down to the bottom, and she's just thanking people for, like, helping her along the way, right? Thanks her mom, thanks some other people. And it said, I highlighted the part that says, thank you, Chief Foster, for checking in on me from time to time. Your words of encouragement and example of excellence continues to push me to be my best in all that I do. And so that's in my book. And that kind of stuff, I mean, that's the majority of my book is like little mementos from pinning ceremonies, from chiefs that I influenced. I got a thank you card in here from one of my instructors. My senior enlisted academy, just class stuff is in here, and on and on it goes. And like, this is one that, these are Facebook posts where people are just tagged me and thanked you. This is that card. I've talked about this in the podcast, that I got to help change the orders for a young lady whose mother was dying of cancer, and she got orders to Norfolk, and her family's from San Diego. So, you know, had her chief instructor vet that, you know, that was all accurate. And then we got her orders changed, and she left a card on my desk. I'd never met this kid ever. I couldn't pick her out of a lineup. But she left a card on my desk that said, Senior Chief Foster, I want to personally thank you for your hard work and dedication, and also for your support in the change of my orders. Mere words could never express my gratitude. My mother and family thank you as well. Very respectfully, sailor's name, right? And there's a lot of stuff like that in here that I continue to populate it as I go here, because even now that I'm retired, things continue to happen that are notable. And those are some small examples, right, along the way of like what it can be when you are in the mess. And it's I've talked about it on the podcast too, where there are things that a chief can get done that a first class can't. There's things a senior chief can get done that a chief can't. There's, et cetera. I'm not saying that should be that way, but it is. And that being what it is, that can be used to do good and to do evil, essentially, right? And there's lots of examples all over meme pages and the internet of incompetent leaders doing the wrong thing for the wrong reason, and the sailor venting about the impact that it had on them and how they thought it was unjust and how it hurt them, and even like how it led to acute mental health issues and everything else. But when you see it function correctly, I won't even say like when it's like peak, when it's like really functioning at the highest possible level, just when it's functioning correctly, like normally, let's just like a normal baseline, it can be pretty incredible and have a huge impact on people. And I've mentioned that as well. There are people that have come up to me and said things to me that, like, thanking me profusely for things I don't even remember doing or saying, right? Like, it was just a normal everyday interaction that meant infinitely more to them than I could ever perceive it to or believed it did. It was just a thing I said in the process of trying to be the best leader that I could be. And it made a huge impact, and they came back around and told me about it later. And I'm like, I don't even remember doing that. And it's not because it wasn't important, I guess. It's just like it making an impact on like something that I thought was important, right? Or like when they come back around and tell me, if it happens early enough, then it's kind of like that interaction, I'll remember it. Like that card with that sailor. Like I remember doing that because that card happened 2 days later, right? And it made it, that card is what burned it into my memory, and I kept it because it meant a lot to me. But I'm also extremely critical of it's kind of like a loop, right? Think about it like a circle. I'm critical because I know the potential that the mess has is probably a pretty strong way of articulating it. Is like, I know what it can be. Again, even when it's not overachieving. And that's something that I got in an argument with one of my favorite CMCs ever. The whole White House story, right, where I intervened. I thought I was just, that's just my job. I just did my job. I intervened when the White House screening went away for stupid reasons, got it turned back on. Sailor got selected, right? Went to the White House. My CMC came down and was like slapping me on the back, telling me what a great job I did, and basically like highlighting how I had gone above and beyond. And I came right back with, why are you patting me on the back? I just did my job, man. Anybody would do the same thing. And he said, like, to his to his point, like, he's right. He said, no, they wouldn't. Like, most people would just accept a senior chief or a mass chief, something like that was the screener person, like the coordinator or whatever, turning it off as the final answer. And I thought about it, and while I thought he was right, I also at the time believed that while that may be true, that what I did was not above and beyond. That was what should be expected out of every chief. So it's not that I deserved recognition. It's that the people that wouldn't do that deserve to be calibrated. Like, they need to get fixed. And I still believe that, but I also understand where he's coming from, where he was like, well, I'm here to reinforce what you just did because not everybody would do it. And so while you might be right, like, agree to disagree, like, you might be right that it's not above and beyond, but it because a lot of people wouldn't have done that, it is, you know what I mean? Like, it's like grading something on a curve, right? And so my conflict with the organization, right? With the way that the mess functions, with the way that we create chiefs, train chiefs, the standards that we have for them, the way we communicate who we are and what we do, which is why I blast the creed so often. My conflict with those things is not an expression of my hatred towards the mess, but more my expression of frustration and disappointment, because I know in my, like in the cells, every cell in my body, I know that we can do so much better. And that doesn't mean that every single chief needs to be perfect. That doesn't mean I want to make photocopies of myself. That doesn't mean that every single one of them needs to be an exemplar. It means every single one of them need to be striving towards a goal of being the best possible chief they can. Right. And that's why I put that line in that draft revision of the creed that I wrote, that I read on the last podcast, if you haven't heard it. And it'll be on the website as a word file. I know the potential. I've seen it work. I've got to be that person, and I've got to watch my chiefs do that. I've had people do it for me. There are ways that you can make just an incredible impact on people. And when I see that not happening, and particularly when I see it, the inverse of that happening, when I see like the reactions that I'm showing, and I'm gonna read one more here in a minute that I got from a podcast listener. When I see these things that I'm sharing with you, when I see the inverse of that happening, right? When it's relayed to me on the internet, when I see it happen in real life, when people contact me via the podcast, when I have discussions with people and they share their story, when I see those things and hear those things where the absolute worst thing is happening, when one of my old students, who I don't know if she still listens, but she did for a long time, when she tells me she was participating in a special event, was selected because she's outstanding, and then tells me that a senior chief essentially tried to sleep with her and was sexually harassing her and trying to coerce her and stuff. That makes me want to go scorched earth, that's disgusting. It hurts me. It causes me pain to hear stuff like that, because this is so important to me, because this is so important to me. The potential of this, the importance of the function that this is meant to fulfill. It can be so much. And if we took leadership development and education seriously, and we created and communicated clear and concise expectations and standards to the people that comprise this organization, and then held them accountable to those, we could, think about, and this is something I discussed this with Lieutenant Travis. I think she's Lieutenant Commander Travis now. I'm sorry if I screwed that up. If you could have an objective quality increase in leadership performance of 20%, right? I don't need you to be perfect. If I could put a system in place that made every chief in the Navy 20% better. So if you're at 0, you're now at 20. If you're at 20, you're now at 40, right? Think about the impact that would make on everything. Everything in the Navy, every interaction you have, every experience, every person you work with, attitude, mood, mental health, just processes, qualifications, esprit de corps, just the ship's efficiency at doing the thing, the mission or whatever, just everything. I have no interest in pursuing perfect chiefs. It'd be cool if that was even possible. But all I want is for the Navy to take it more seriously. If you're going to go out to everybody and communicate that we're the backbone of the Navy, then why don't you treat it with the importance that you convey in your little one-liners that you insert into speeches, right? Because if it was so important to the operation of the Navy, then why can't we get resources? And don't point at Inlet ELD. Like, I'm happy it exists, but that's not the solution, right? That you'd have to multiply that by 10 and like add all kinds of functionality to that. It's a Band-Aid on a bullet hole. And while I appreciate it exists, come on. The dichotomy of my involvement in, passion for, and criticism of the Chiefs mess I know what it can be, and I know it can be the solution, right? All the sailors that light up Reddit like a Christmas tree every day and are the meme account runners and the page, like the shit my LPO says page, and there's an MA one, and there's a, like all those pages, right? They're expressing this frustration and disappointment in the mess, and we're not paying attention to it or taking it seriously. We're just laughing at it, right? And like I've talked about debrief and Simeo surveys where they light the senior enlisted on fire and they light the Chiefs mess on fire, and I'm briefing the triad and they're laughing about it. Oh, bitchin' sailor's a happy sailor. It's like, or not. It's incredibly frustrating to watch it function in that manner. And while I was on active duty, I was simultaneously one of the most influential chiefs in the messes I was in, except for the first one because I was brand new and it was a very top-heavy mess. I was simultaneously I was still vocal in that mess, but I wasn't the most influential at all. But I was simultaneously like the most influential and the most, I don't know if disliked is the right word, but like, they're like, oh, here he goes. You know what I mean? Like saying the quiet thing out loud again, like it's a lot easier to just sit there and let the status quo be what it is. Change is uncomfortable, and criticism is uncomfortable, and I'm the guy that's going to say it out loud, and I did very often, to the point that, Cobbs and CMCs that really liked me and valued what I brought to the organization also. There's not a lot of chiefs out there that get told to essentially shut up, senior chief. And you don't get called that. You get called by your first name 99% of the time. Not me. I found a way to get put in my place quite a bit, because when I think someone's wrong, I'm going to tell them they're wrong, and I'm going to argue the point until I get shut down like that, because then I know I've done everything I possibly can. I've exhausted every option, and unless we're talking about safety of sailors or something that's like illegal or super dangerous or just ethically wrong, at that point I've pushed as hard as I can. The person that is the decision maker, and in this case we're talking about like a CMC or Cobb, that they're the one wearing the cookie. They get to make the decision. I'm there to support and advise and do everything I can to help. But when I would get chin checked, it's like, okay, I did everything I could. Cobb, move on with life, right? I still thought they were wrong. I still thought they should do it differently, but I would push that hard, right? So I was disliked in moments or entirely, but also I was respected and had a lot of influence for that reason. That's, in my analysis, that's how a mess should run. And that's how we communicate that a chief should function. But then when they do, people get pissed because they're human beings. That's why I'm studying psychology. They're having human reactions, but we've painted this picture of this organization and its values as what I think it can be an attainable goal, and you could be that exemplar while being a fallible human being. But a lot of people don't even pursue it. A lot of messes collectively don't pursue it, and then sometimes there will be anomalies in that mess. A lot of the time, honestly. But that you get treated like I did. You're like, like sometimes you can fight and a lot of that had to do with my rank and seniority as well, obviously, but you can get ostracized for vocalizing those things. So a lot of human beings that have a sense of belonging and don't want to get ostracized from that organization just keep their mouth shut. And that's the problem. Not enough people are saying the quiet part out loud. I hope that explains it. I think it makes perfect sense. It confuses some people, and I guess it's understandable, which is why I wanted to do this and kind of break it down. But to me, it makes perfect sense. I care about this thing, right? I care about not just the Navy, but I care about the Chiefs Mess. I think it has a very important role. I think it can be magical when you do it right, when you take it seriously, when you really are striving to attain like the values delineated in like the mission, vision, guiding principles, and a lot of even just the historical documents, right? Like the short talk with Chief Petty Officers thing. But unfortunately, based on what in my analysis is a void in leadership development and education and effective standards and communication and enforcement of those standards, it's a dysfunctional mess. And not just, I don't mean like the mess. I mean, the mess is a dysfunctional mess, like a sloppy, ugly mess. And there are anomalies, right? There are high functioning messes out there. There are dysfunctional messes with high functioning members. Status quo, though, like the mean, it's a dysfunctional mess. And if you need any more evidence, just go troll Reddit, the meme pages, Simeo surveys historically. There's plenty of articles, stories shared on the podcast, other podcasts. Acute mental health issues are rampant and out of control. And again, in my analysis, it's a leadership problem. It's caused by incompetent leadership. And so that's why I'm so vocal about it. That's why I go hard in the paint. And I'm simultaneously really proud of being a chief because I've seen what it can be. And I'm not walking away from the possibility, however infinitesimal, that we can turn the ship around and get it headed in the right direction and create something that not only we can be proud of, because I'm proud of it, even though I think it's broken, but that junior sailors can be not proud of so much as just can trust and be guided by and developed by and look up to and want to be a part of. And right now, I don't think that's real. And there's an article, not an article. I did a podcast on a social media post that Bill Houlihan did about a sailor that checked in. He's CMC. They did a career development board, and he said, "I've never met a chief that I want to be, ever." And Houlihan, being the exceptional leader that he is, lost his shit and wrote it on his dry erase board in his office, said he's not erasing it until he turns that around. Made the social media post. I did the podcast on it as a result, and we interacted a little bit. But yeah, I don't think that's going away. I think that quote that he had on his dry erase board is the sentiment of the majority, if not damn near all, junior enlisted sailors in the Navy. So yeah, that's why. The last part, I really want to drive the point home of what's possible, and I'm going to read some, if not all, of this email that I received. This was back in 2021, right at the beginning of 2021. A new chief sent me an email that I've had it sitting in my box. I got to transfer it into my book, but I'm trying to figure out how, because I want to put the whole thing in there and I don't want to like cut it up and stuff. But it's I don't want to put I didn't have time because I just thought of it when I unpacked my book. I found the email, but I didn't have time to kind of get his permission, so I'm not gonna say who it is or I'm going to try to strip it of any identifying information, but I'll read the highlights, I guess. The subject was Chief Initiation, your podcast, and its impact on this first year, meaning like a first year chief. And the first line, I mean, I remember reading the email, and I remember it was like a good punch in the gut, if that's a thing. It says, bro, through your efforts, you have completely changed the course of my career, flat out. And then he talks about like his rate. He's a new chief. And they said that initiation resulted in some of those scars you discussed on your Teaching to the Creed Acceptance podcast that were deep enough that I applied for a commission because I was actively trying to remove my anchors. I think that fundamentally the issue in my season was that this Teaching to the Creed curriculum was never taught, or was only taught by us selectees. I'm not certain, but I know I never got any formal training outside of CPO SLC, which was it's effectively replaced by Teaching to the Creed now, like I think they do laying the keel now. I don't know. It changes every 5 minutes, but anyway, perhaps we can get into the weeds on those scars later, but it isn't the point of this email. The point is that I have been fundamentally shifted in my biases towards chiefs. Throughout this last year, starting with my season, I have had a slew of experience that confirmed my already very negative view of chiefs. And then he talks about the people that participated in his season they were doing it more for entertainment value, like the reindeer games concept, of watching people struggle and all that kind of stuff. And he said, how can we forge family ties if all we are doing throughout the season is berating each other? Why was it my responsibility to go seek out advice from those who, in my perception, were abusing me just so that I could understand why the abuse was happening? Why did my selection suddenly mean my opinions and voice was somehow less valuable than it was before that list came out? These were questions I wrestled with and continued to wrestle with through my entire first year. And then he says, hell, if I'm being fair, I'm probably still trying to figure out those whys. I actively sought out advice and mentorship from those who seemed to bring positivity to my season, those who seemed to be, again, in my perception, trying to add legitimate value to the training curriculum throughout my first year. Those are those anomalies I was talking about. I was involved in the mess, tried to be the best chief I knew how to be, and my sailors seemed to appreciate my efforts. But due to my circumstances in season, I always had a black cloud hanging over me since I did not participate in final night. For understanding, it wasn't really by choice. Had a kid being born, complicated pregnancy, hospitalizations, right? Like it was, his attention needed to be on his family, basically. So this whole year, I've been getting my acceptance alluded to as fictional, or that I didn't actually go through it. This year, which he's talking about the first year he participated in the season as a chief. This year I was knee deep in season since I wanted all the perspectives I could gain. My mess was probably sick of me asking questions, starting with why after every evolution. There's no way I was right regarding the mess. Too many people I respected were 100% bought in, so I needed to find the good that they found. Roughly 2 weeks into our season, your podcast was recommended in a Facebook group when I floated the idea of starting my own podcast. I devoured the Teaching of the Creed modules. You put words to how I feel, and I respect your words so much more because you're not limited to speaking them behind closed doors and one-on-one conversations. This transparency made me realize that my feelings were valid. They didn't have to be hidden. While I should always be trying to stay in alignment with the mess, it's okay to speak my truth as well as long as it's done with the intention of moving the mess forward. Not only that, but to hear your conversations with others in the mess was so refreshing to me that some in our community are comfortable enough in their ideas to speak openly about them. It is incredible to find, through proxy, the support of more chiefs out there, especially in a community I'm not personally familiar with, meaning submarines and stuff. Or just, whoever I happen to be talking to, I guess. And then he says, thank you, bro. I can only imagine the time investment it takes for these, but it's so worth it. I really appreciate your work. If you could please forward this, if you feel appropriate, to all those who worked with your Teaching of the Creed modules, which I did. They were all fantastic and brought a range of ahas to my first year. And then, just some other stuff that's not relevant. But that, and he's probably listening to, like, we still correspond. I mean, there aren't even words to describe, like, and I've gotten similar ones. Like, I have another one hanging up over here that I won't go, I'm not going to read you 17 emails, but like, I have another one from another chief that just talking about how I reinvigorated him, and he was bitter and jaded and essentially just like mentally checked out, and then discovered the podcast, and it reinvigorated his desire to be a good chief. Right. And and this isn't self-congratulatory. Like, I'm not writing an eval over here. This doesn't benefit me in any way, shape, or form. Unless you're some troll that wants to say I'm stroking my own ego or whatever, and I don't care. That's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing it because these are the this is the evidence I have. Like, these are the receipts, you know, like I don't have like, these are my examples. It's my context. So, and I want to show, right. Not just say that, the potential impact that you can make, right? And a lot of these impacts I'm sharing with you, this was from a side hustle. This was from just like a thing I was doing on the side because I viewed the current model as broken. So I'm like, well, what can I do about it right now that can help some of these people? And I settled on a podcast, right? And I've told the origin story and stuff, so I won't get into that, but that's what it can be. That's the potential that it has. That's the impact that you can make on people. And that's like probably the most important point that I can drive home is that you have the ability to make a difference. You don't have to start a podcast. You don't have to be on TikTok. You don't have to do, you know what I mean? Like, you don't have to do any of that. Initially, I was targeting junior sailors, right? That was the point, right? I was trying to provide a leadership tool, like a resource for development for junior sailors, not for chiefs. That I didn't even think. I was afraid. I had imposter syndrome. I was afraid the mess was going to come for me, you know, because not for criticizing the mess, because I wasn't doing that at first. Because how dare you like put yourself out there as this like leadership exemplar and like this person that's, how dare you tell us how to be leaders? Like, how dare you tell our sailors how to, you know what I mean? Like, I had this fear that people were going to come for my head, you know, and it never happened. And then the bigger it got, this is the response almost universally. Now that I'm on YouTube, I get trolls now and then, but and then Reddit and stuff. But yeah, I just want you to understand, like, the potential is, and it's not limited to the Chiefs mess at all. Like, I have three now, because Troy's involved. 3 incredible first classes that are putting podcasts out through my platform and making a damn difference. I've seen, you know, like, people in junior positions make an incredible, like the life promotion concept. That was a podcast like a million years ago, but one of my old A school students and friends created this incredible program on board their ship in Hawaii called Life Promotion. And it was a bunch of second classes and third classes, and it was incredible. You can fix the problems. You can make things better. You can create resources. You can make an impact. But focusing on the mess part, because that's what this podcast is about, that's why I go hard in the paint. That's why I'm proud of being a chief. Hope that makes sense. If you got any questions, comments, or concerns, don't be shy. Hit me up. Don't give up shit podcast at gmail.com. You can Facebook message us. Don't give up shit podcast. You can DM us on Instagram, Reddit, or Discord at DGUTSpodcast. If you want to support us, dgutspodcast.com. There's a donate button on the website, or you can go to DGUTS Apparel. It's don't give up the ship apparel, dgutspodcast.com. Get yourself some naval pride and heritage gear that actually we're in public. That's where the podcast gear is too. We got stickers. We got all kinds of cool stuff, coins. And then if you want to, probably the best way is patreon.com/DGUTSpodcast. Go become a patron. There's 5 tiers, bunch of really cool benefits, and it helps us a lot with expanding the platform and paying the bills and all the things. If you can't afford to spend any money, that's fine. Like, share, subscribe, review on all the platforms for all the things. Subscribe to YouTube, share the videos, share the content on social media, tag your friends, review us on iTunes or Spotify or whatever you're listening on. Whatever you can do. And then, you know, even if it's just listening, it helps, and we really appreciate it. And that's it. That's what I got for you today. Thank you so much for listening, and don't give up the ship. Hey, big shout out to our level 5 patrons, William McIver and Victoria Livingood, to all the other patrons and everyone that supports us. We couldn't do it without you. You're allowing us to expand the platform, pay all these bills, and continue to push out just awesome content for you as much as is humanly possible. And we really, really appreciate you. Thank you so much. Please hit the like button, drop a comment down below on what you thought, and subscribe to the channel.